Without broadband, individuals, households, and entire communities are put at a direct economic disadvantage. According to the National Bureau for Economic Research, broadband connectivity supplies roughly $2,000 a year in economic value. That's $2,000 per household, and it isn't just because of increased job prospects. It's cheaper flights, it's less expensive diapers, I know that one well. It's better medical information, it's access to untold online resources and cost savings. For communities without broadband connectivity, this means that they are hemorrhaging thousands of dollars every year from their local economy for every household that remains on the wrong side of the digital divide. And beyond this direct yearly cost, there are secondary effects. One that caused by the lack of broadband connectivity that directly impacts perhaps the most important asset most families have, their home. In May 2019, just a few months ago, researchers Stephen Deller and Brian Whitaker released a study of 887 rural communities looking at the effect of broadband connectivity on home value. Among their many interesting findings, one in particular stood out, and that is this, quote, higher access to broadband, regardless of the specific estimator used, that's code for speed, has a positive impact on remote rural housing values. According to Deller and Whitaker, these results translate to a fairly extensive benefits. Quote, a 10% increase in coverage of at least 0.2 megabits per second results in a median house value increase of $661. Thus, for an underserved community, increasing even baseline connectivity to a simple majority of local households can have an impact of thousands of dollars per house. The researchers underscored this point in July 2019, where they estimated that, quote, annual property tax collections could increase $25,000 to $65,000 in rural counties, which could significantly which would be significant for rural areas that often struggle to fund local services. These property taxes are, of course, in addition to the wealth generation broadband creates for each individual home-owning family. The National Federation of Independent Business has found that the lack of broadband access, especially in rural areas, is harming startups and small business prospects as well. The NFIB claims, quote, for business owners in rural communities, broadband connectivity has become an issue they cannot ignore. As more industries and day-to-day operations rely on fast and reliable connectivity, areas that lack this essential tool are increasingly left in the dust. For far too many communities, this means that economic activity is being actively depressed. Not only are their businesses at a competitive disadvantage due to this lack of broadband, new businesses are moving away, and so are the entrepreneurs that create them due to the non-existent connectivity. In September 2018, the great folks at the Pew Research Center found that 24% of rural Americans claim that access to high-speed broadband is a, quote, major problem, with an additional 34% stating that lack of connectivity is, quote, a minor problem. Thus, only 4 in 10 respondents said that broadband access was not a problem in their communities. And over the past 15 years, home broadband has dramatically increased. For rural homes, from 10% to 58% between 2003 and 2018. But if you look more closely at these data, a highly problematic trajectory begins to emerge. According to Pew, in 2013, 70% of urban residents and 60% of rural homes were broadband users. So for rural communities, broadband connectivity has gone, and this is an odd fact, from 60% to 58% between 2013 and 2018. For urban constituencies, it's gone from 70% to 67% over that same time period. These implications are rather profound. For the past half decade, home broadband use hasn't meaningfully expanded. In 2015, the US Census Bureau reported that Pennsylvania has 1.35 million rural households. Now, according to the FCC's highly optimistic estimates, roughly 40% of these households, or 540,000, do not have broadband connectivity. Taking into account the economic costs borne by these 540,000 households, as per the National Bureau of Economic Research's $2,000 a year opportunity cost, the current lack of broadband is costing rural Pennsylvanian residents over $1 billion a year in increased economic expenditures.